For loops are actually most useful when combined with arrays. An array is just a list of data or a data set or a set of defined data elements. In an array, there's a couple of rules that have to be followed. In an array, all the different elements in the set of data have to have the same data type. You cannot have mismatched data types in the group of data. And the other thing is, when you declare an array object in your program, you must define the size of the array at declaration time. It's almost like a way to initialize the array. The array must have a defined size at startup, and by size I mean the number of elements in the array, or the number of elements in the dataset. So let's see a little bit more about how arrays actually, what they look like. So in an array, you can have a block of data, something like, that's a horrible block of data, something like that, right? Now all these are, say for example, numerics. Each element of the array is going to have an index, or it's also called subscript. And arrays in structureware start at 1. So the first element of your array is going to be 1, then 2. So if you have here, you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So in a 10 element array, your first array element is going to be 1. It's always going to be 1 regardless of the size of the array. And in a 10 element array, the last index of your array is going to be 10. So let's see what that looks like. In fact, let's just go ahead and bind them right now. So now we've declared all our binding variables for this program. Now we're going to declare an array, an instance of an array. Okay, so let's examine this. Numeric. This is the data type of every single element inside the array called OA temps. It's not OA temp, it's OA temps. Now let's have a look at this. These are square brackets, opening and closing square brackets, and this here is where you would put the index of each element of the array that you want to query in any one single statement. In this case, in the declaration of an instance of an array is where in square brackets we define how many elements the array is going to have, and this is how a complete declaration of an instance of an array looks like. You have your data type of the elements, the name of the array instance, and in square brackets the size of the array, how many elements is this array going to have. Then we can do things. For example, now, in fact, what we need to do is add assign the value of each of these binding variables to each of the elements in the array. So now, every time this program runs, once it gets to line 6, is going to take any value in any of those binding variables, which in theory would be tied to 10 different outside air temperature sensors throughout the building, and it would bring them over. Now, maybe you actually in real life would do this with zone temperatures in a large building with many VAVs. Nonetheless, this is how it would kind of work. So you'd want to go ahead now and assign a value from the binding variables into the array elements so that you can process those values in those arrays in your for loop. So let's do that. So we're saying take the first element in the 08 temps array and assigned 08 temp 1 to it. Then let's go ahead and let's calculate the standard deviation, for example. For that, we might want to go ahead and create another special variable, or another local variable. Let's call it this we're going to put on our numeric local variables. So see how the editing tool that we're using, as I started to type standard deviation, it had this IntelliSense, I think it's called, where it figured out what I was trying to type and it made a suggestion. I click tab and it types the word for you automatically. Standard deviation is a standard function that comes as part of the structure-aware environment, and it basically calculates the larger your standard deviation value, the greater the difference that there is between the different components, or the different elements, I should say, in the array that you used as an argument for this function. So essentially the number we'll get here, it's going to be I believe it's some number from negative, I'm not sure actually, I forgot the range of this number, but there's documentation about it on the technical reference manual for structureware. So, well, let's give some values here so that we can run that and see what the actual standard deviation is going to be. Okay, line 17, we've got an error. Yep, missing this. Successful. Alright, so let's go with 55. So let's run this now. And let's see what that standard deviation comes out to be. We forgot to do something, or I forgot to do something rather. We need to bind this. Gotta get all this structure where values actually bound, so that we can get all the right values here. So let's go ahead and start this up now. Just pull this up so that it can show all the different. Here's your array, which is a local variable. Here's all the different array elements, and here's your standard deviation variable that we created. These are local variables. So let's start tracing. Okay. So this standard deviation turned out to be 17.5. But by itself, really, all that this is telling us is that some number must have a very large difference from the rest of the numbers, right? Or that there's a difference between the numbers in there. But it doesn't really tell us a whole lot. Let's see what it would be like if we went ahead and made this guy 55. So in this case, there's very, very small deviation between all the different elements in the set. Let's see what kind of standard deviation do we get now. Now we get close to 0. When standard deviation it's actually 0, that means you have no standard deviation and all the elements in the array have the same exact value.